Ben, you are a card.
And that's what she said to me, and that was my actual response. So it was funny.
Glad you taped it all on VHS.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Ben.
I'm Tom.
And welcome to part 2 of the 90s rap. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1, you've missed out on all kinds of... What was in part 1? I can't fucking even remember.
Oh, look. I think there was 2 white guys talking about stuff for a bit.
You've missed out on some antics and all kinds of conversations about things in the 90s that many said were probably best left forgotten, but we brought them back up. So go listen to that, or don't. I don't really care. This is one of those podcasts where it's like, if you haven't listened to part 17, you couldn't possibly understand what's going to go on. You'll understand what's going on here. It's just talking more about 90s stuff. I think we've got some awards for there's one about
best use of day glow and set design.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
widest lapels on a female shirt.
Yep, there's that one.
Tallest beanie worn by a boy band member.
There's all those. And
roundest, smallest John Lennon glasses.
Yes, correct.
Most pairs of Doc Martens owned by a teenage girl.
Yep, we've got all those awards and a lot more.
Just 90 stuff, yeah.
Exactly. So strap on in and thank you for listening to part. Assuming you have. If you haven't, then ignore that. Thanks. Go back and listen or don't, as we said. But yeah, strap yourself in for part 2 of the 90s rap. And if you've got no interest in this whatsoever, that's fine. Just wait till next week where we'll be getting straight into the year 2000. So hope to see you then or now. Either one. Yes. Thank you. Thanks. Do we need to redo that? That was fucking awful. Just keep it.
I think it was
fucking hell. It's fine. So yeah, look, I've got a few awards to go through.
Sure, hand them out.
Not some of the big ones. We'll get to some of the bigger ones later, but certainly, look, I'm going to start with. Where will I start? I think here, Tom. Look, I've got the You Really Need to Read Between the Lines lyrics award, Tom.
Sure.
And for that one, I'm going to give that to Moose T. Horny.
Ah, yes, yep, another horny song.
I think it's something that, you really, the thing is that you really need to, there's a nuanced meaning to this song, and it's not something that, you listen to this the first time you hear it, you might not quite get it, but you listen to it a bit more, and then finally I think you can tease out some of those finer points, and of course I refer to these lyrics, Tom. I'm horny, 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 horny. So horny, I'm horny, horny, horny. I'm horny, 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 horny. So horny, I'm horny, horny, horny tonight.
Ah, that's good. Because I was starting to wonder at which exact, chronological point he was horny.
Yeah, exactly. So you're really got to sort of do I need to say them again? I don't really know if people at home get where it's coming, but yeah, you need to sort of listen to this, tease that out. So I think that's why I gave that award to those guys. It also features a lyric that shows that people didn't really understand the information superhighway in the late 90s, Tom. It's got, you got me horny in the morning, I tried to call you, but I can't find the telephone. I sent a message through the internet, but it rejected. I wrote a letter and I sent it with the post. So there you go.
Okay. So look, it's a fucking life-changing story, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I think what's unusual about that is as well, I think that, if one is horny, wake up horny, as she sort of mentioned. Sorry, I'm just going to click back on those lyrics. I'm horny. Yeah, it appears that she is horny. So She's horny in the morning and she says, I'm fucking... It's a female singing this song as well. So she's saying, I'm horny, 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 horny. Picks up the phone, tried to call... she can't actually find the telephone, so she's like, I'm going to give this guy a call. And that makes sense. You're horny, call up the dude, come over, I'm horny. So it's just like, can't find the phone, okay. That's the most immediate way of communicating. Step 2, I'll send an email.
Yep.
But it's 1998, 99, so she's like, I'll send that email through.
Well, she's probably at the public library.
Exactly.
So she might have run out. It's like $1 per 30 seconds, exactly. So she's probably run out of change to feed into the giant machine that you got to put in.
Exactly right. So she sends that email through. Just like the email just says, I'm horny, 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 so horny, 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 horny. And then just like, come around if you get the chance. That gets rejected.
Yep.
So then she writes a letter. Now, this makes no sense to me because the phone is just like, look, I want this dude to come around and bang me today.
Yes.
If preferable, in the next half an hour. That doesn't work. So email says, look, maybe he'll read this today and come over within the day.
24 hours.
24 hours, exactly. The letter is just like... We're talking a 7 to 10 day turnaround here. I mean, it's, Australia Post. It's going to take a while to get that letter. He opens it up. It's just like, oh, what? So, fucking hell. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
It's strange.
So for sure, I mean, just try and find that. And then the thing is, if she sends the email and it says, give me a call, she can't fucking find her phone anyway. So none of this I don't really know what the hell's going on with this. But yeah, apparently, look, all I hope is that Moose T did get fucked by someone at some stage. So
the weird thing I always thought about their name was you would think it would be spelt Moose like the animal. But it's not. It's spelt moose like the dessert.
Yeah, it makes no fucking sense at all.
I will say that, I mean, sure, the mention of snail mail is pretty fucking dated, but I'll say that, I'll give them this. Nothing sounds as dated now as a song that mentions either a beeper or a pager.
Oh,
At least by compared to that, for some reason, a letter does it. There's nothing so ancient as a song that hit me on my beeper.
Oh, that sounds, yeah, for sure. Snail mail will never die, Tom. And look, I think that...
pager. That was... You might as well have, send me a fax.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I am married, but if I do ever find myself single again, divorced for whatever, I will certainly be writing someone a letter through the post that just says I'm horny, and see what happens.
With the SLR camera analog photo of your genitals that you've had to take into town to a photo processing booth, give to another human being, pay money for, wait a week, come back, take back, then sticky tape into the letter.
Exactly, yeah. I think a lot of people sort of forget that these days a dick pic's so simple, isn't it? So simple.
Yes.
You just whip the phone out, take a photo of the dick, and then just put it straight onto Snapchat.
Even an Instamatic camera allows dick pic technology.
For sure,
we didn't have access.
But back in Moose T's days, dick pic. You're right. You had to snap it, go down to Stellards, get it developed, wait 24 hours. You had to pay more for 24-hour development. If you were short on cash, it might take a couple of days, and then you got to tape it in and then mail it off, and it's just like Moose T's she's probably got some other dude by then, so who knows? But anyway, great lyrics, very subtle, but something that I enjoy.
Have you got any other little categories there?
Fastest way to end a relationship award.
Sure.
And that goes to Human Nature with Telling Everybody. So
is that what the song's
It's called Telling Everybody. The lyrics just go, Tom, I'm telling everybody what we did last night. Telling everybody.
Jesus.
Telling everybody what we did last night. Are you really? Telling everybody?
Is that supposed to be...
Every single fucking person that you run into, you're telling them. So everybody, all of them, every single person that you run into, you're going to tell them what you did last night.
As Vanessa Amorosi once said, everybody in the whole wide world.
So
absolutely everybody.
Absolutely everybody. I mean, telling everybody, Human Nature, these guys suck shit. That goes without saying. But you find yourself in a relationship or someone that you've met someone, maybe it's sort of a new person, maybe, I assume what they're implying here is that you've become intimate for perhaps the first time, or something's happened that sort of you're really excited about. That's fantastic. That's great that you and the person that you most want to spend time with at that period in your life wants to spend time with you, and you've been able to get together, spend some intimate time together. Fantastic. But telling everybody... What, you're down at the post office getting some stamps. Oh, hey, what's up? Oh, can I just get 2 stamps? Yeah, I need to send a letter to Moose T because I'm horny, so I just got to do that. And then it's just like, oh, what did you get up to last night? Well, just so happens that I finger slayed Michelle. Michelle from,
Hang on, in this song, is he like, it's not like a revenge song. He's singing it thinking that he's overjoyed and she's going to be proud. She's going to be happy about this situation. He's gone straight to the pub and told everyone.
Yep. He's at the deli getting, 100 grams of ham, 200 grams of ham, some salami, and he's telling the butcher that he deep dicked a chick, and it's just like telling everybody what we did last night. I don't think there's many chicks And I'm not talking about era-wise. I think not today, but even in the 90s, if it's just sort of like, I was down at the pub and I just told all my mates that we banged last night.
Even if they were a completely different band instead of these sort of not soft rock, the
just garbage,
garbage boy band sort of harmony kind of not non-soul sort of just easy listening boy band bollocks. Like, even if they were a kind of edgy sort of band, I still can't imagine this kind of dominatrix type of woman who wants you to go around telling everybody that you had sex the night before. Like, that's just tacky no matter what angle you come at it from.
Oh, it's awful, yeah, absolutely.
Even E-Rotic wouldn't find that E-Rotic.
Erotic wouldn't do that. They're classier than that.
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly, they're proponents of boning. We know that from their album titles. But they wouldn't go, they don't spread it around town. They keep the intimacy between themselves. And I think that's, for human nature, what I find just wrong. It's just sort of, and you're right, Tom, it is human nature. I mean, it's embarrassing that I think as a female, it would be embarrassing that you'd be dating a member of human nature and then to have one of them running around town.
Yes.
Everyone, your mum, just, the butcher, as we said, at the post office, down at the supermarket, everybody just, a mate from high school that you haven't seen for 10 years, finger slayed, so it's just, I don't want...
No, there's no circumstance where...
No circumstance where that's right. So that's the fastest way to end a relationship award, human nature. Those guys suck shit. So, yeah.
They sure do.
Definitely right. You don't want to tell everyone what you did last night. I've got another award, Tom, most literal music pseudonym. And that's a tie between Alice DJ and Alex Party. So I think that's pretty good. So... What's your name?
Alex DJ's got to win. No, Alice DJ. Because Alex Party is not literally a party.
No.
Even Andrew WK is not literally a party. He still needs other people around him.
True.
To make a party.
I just felt like Alex Party sort of is trying to sell himself as a party DJ. So it's just sort of like...
Yeah.
What's your name? Alex. So what do you do? DJ party... What about Alex DJ? I mean, the thing is though, Tom, I'm sort of, having a bit of fun here at these people's expenses, but all the good names were taken. DJ Cyberstorm obviously was gone. That's off the table. Fatboy Slim. All the really good names were gone. So, yeah, but Alice DJ, Better Off Alone, classic Eurodance track, and Alex Party, Wrap Me Up in Your Love. Can you wrap someone up in something that is intangible in a sense? So Wrap Me Up in Your Love, it is a great song, but I don't know, I just sort of hope that sort of Alice was just like, I'm going to be a DJ, my name's Alice, Alice DJ. Not mad at that, just saying that, very literal, good on them.
Slightly more interesting than DJ Alice.
Absolutely. And
only slightly.
And one more award. I'll have one more quick award, Tom, if you want, before you go in there. The George Michael Award for Best Use of a Saxophone for me goes to in this decade, Rex and Effect Rump Shaker.
Ah, yes.
All I want to do is go a zoom, 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 and a boom, boom, go shake the rump. And I think we talked about that song earlier in an episode because it does have a lyric where he sort of refers to like female body parts as sort of like parts on a map. So, like I'm going to come round to your, Rhode Island or something like that.
Go south of the equator.
Exactly.
Touch you when you
so very great use of saxophone. That's a very good video clip as well if you're a fan of bikinis and rump shaking and saxophones.
No, there's one particular bikini that has stayed with me since I was about 15, which I think was from that video. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. They also have the hardest to spell name in rock. I'll give them that. RWEXCXN. Just space, letter N, no apostrophe. No. Oh, God, I can't even remember. Every word is wrong in several ways. But anyway,
WREXX. And, I don't know. Look, all I know is that their Spotify listens are probably way down just on how difficult it is for someone to type in Rex and Effects. So,
seriously, in the world of the internet, you can't be too generic or too specific. Otherwise, people just can't fucking find you on the internet.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago there was... I can't remember even what genre they were, but I remember reading a review of some album, and the band was called Food, and I was just like, you guys are in for it. And I think the album was like self-titled. It was like, you're in for a fucking hard time, guys, because nobody is going to be able to find that anywhere.
My brother was briefly a fan in the sort of, I don't even know what music style it was called, the Death from Above, that era.
Yep.
There was a band called which was spelt ! Which, hey, that looks very cool on a funky graphic design Vice magazine style poster. Good luck trying to fucking look that shit up on the internet.
Yeah. I remember
or say it, even if you've never heard anyone say before, which doesn't even fucking make sense anyway, but you know.
I remember there was a like a Meshuggah style knockoff band called 4 question marks, and on and I remember on there, and I just remember like,
how was that pronounced?
Well, it was the first album was just literally 4 question mark times 4, and then by their second album they just changed it to actually FOURQE, like they'd spelt out 4 question marks, because they realised that nobody, if you just put 4 question marks into Google, like nothing probably shows up. So you gotta be careful what you do. But Alex Party wouldn't have that problem.
No,
you just type it in, it just comes straight away. Wrap me up in your love.
That's
just
bordering
comes
on too generic. If you were called Party, you'd be in trouble. Alex Party, you'd be okay. Yeah,
for sure, absolutely.
Okay. I did this in the 80s, so I thought I might as well do it with the 90s too. Yeah. Best anti-drug campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so many contenders. There was nothing as specific era-wise as the Rock Against Drugs campaign, which basically spanned neatly the whole 80s and featured a positive who the fuck is that combined with a what are they doing on a against drugs ad, cavalcade of stars. But there were some pretty good stuff. I know this will hurt you in particular, Ben, but sadly we can't include the global smash hit One Life by 2 Times Trouble from the opening credits of MacGyver Season 5, Episode 10, because unfortunately it aired on December the 11th, 1989, and thus is out of contention by Nat's dick. Also, the band may or may not be fictional. I was unable to tell. Even the MacGyver Wiki couldn't tell me.
No.
By the way, if you're shocked that a MacGyver Wiki exists in 2021, may I say, welcome to your first time using the internet. Don't touch anything without asbestos gloves provided. Similarly, easily the worst anti-drug song I've ever heard, including One Life by 2 Times Trouble, is called Chuck by a band called Funk Junkies from 1995. If you think nu metal was rough, you can blame its predecessor, funk metal. Holy shit. To quote Pixelated Boat, Faith No More is a great band that on paper should be a disaster, and every band that tried to repeat their formula was a disaster. Funk Junkies, I should say, was spelt PHUNKJUNKEEZ. So that should give you an idea of their musical style. This song from 1995 has a chorus which is just, what the fuck, Chuck, what the fuck's up, repeated 9 times. Then verses that tell the sorry story of the eponymous Chuck, a real-life friend of the band, like a guy they actually knew. Chuck got pulled at an early age. In a pine box, man, he should have been engaged. Chuck's chilling hard on the other side of life. Left a family, friends, possibly a wife. Chuck didn't know that night he would die. I wonder if he hears his mother cry. Probably not, given that, as the song later tells us, he's D to the E to the A to the T. Sure, that's fucking appalling, but unfortunately it's also disqualified because it's just an anti-drug song, not an actual anti-drug ad. That was just a song that they put out. In the end, really, the best anti-drug ad the 90s produced was the grunge scene, which was probably the last musical genre we'll ever have that was comprehensively infected with heroin, not to mention all sorts of other drugs. I mean, there are plenty of drugs in glam, for instance, but they were on the table, figuratively and literally when the cops showed up, not to mention on the cover of the album in some cases. There wasn't a lot of glamour in Kurt Cobain on the other side of the bathroom door from his newborn baby shooting up to numb a mystery stomach condition that caused him lifelong untreatable pain. On the other hand, a lot of the grunge people probably just thought it was part of the scene, like Marilyn Manson abusing groupies or Kid Rock selling a line of Confederate flag fleshlights. But yeah, I mean, by 96, Rolling Stone was already doing articles about the heroin epidemic in Seattle. Yep. And by the time Rolling Stone are doing it, that means it's 5 years too long. So it was there before grunge came along. Yep. So yeah, they were just the right age and the right people to be doing it. People from the grunge scene who died from heroin or drug-related deaths include both Lane Staley and Mike Starr from Alice in Chains, Kristen Pfaff of Hole, Kurt Cobain, obviously, Chris Cornell quite recently, Andrew Wood of Mother Love Bone, Blind Melon's Shannon Hoon, Scott Weiland from the Stone Temple Pilots, Doug Hopkins from the Gin Blossoms, John Baker Saunders, the bassist from Mad Season, Bradley Nowell from Sublime, Tripping Daisies' Wes Bergeron, Stephanie Sargent from Riot Girl's 7-Year Bitch, Jonathan Melvoin touring with the Smashing Pumpkins, and these are just the most famous ones who died, not counting the roadies and the partners and the ODs and the near misses. Like, even the glam metal guys were luckier than that. All of Guns N' Roses are still alive, for fuck's sake. And Izzy Stradlin was dealing smack to half the band before Appetite even came out. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit morbid. So, on a lighter note, let's play a game that anyone can play along at home using the YouTube links in the playlist. Yep. Drum roll here. Who is more on heroin during their MTV Unplugged special? Lane Staley or Scott Weiland? Now, Alice in Chains' best album, Dirt, is pretty much exclusively about doing heroin and contains some of the grimiest drug lyrics of all time. It's the audio equivalent of a homeless guy's feet and has a similarly polarising appeal. So, of course, in their MTV Unplugged special, Lane Staley is visibly on smack. He wears sunglasses for the first 5 songs, and when he takes them off, I strongly suspect it's to help the light keep him awake. He's sitting down mostly, but he is on a stool and does remain upright and conscious while performing, which is not bad. Stools aren't particularly comfortable when you're not on smack. Scott Weiland is literally in a rocking chair with his eyes shut, literally nodding back and forward the whole show. He does not stand up at all, if you've seen that video. Yeah. I strongly suspect at the end of it, like some sort of 16th century French nobleman, they just picked up the chair like a sedan chair with 4 roadies and just carried it off stage. So I'm going to give this one to Scott Weiland, but judge for yourself. And like Scott Weiland, don't do heroin or you might end up with frosted tips and a chin beard. Nobody wants that to happen, you know.
Look, I reckon that, I think I recall that MTV Stone Temple Pilots special, I think it might have been shown on TV. Yeah, when I was a child. I remember
they were on Rage and late at night, but I don't know, in the daytime maybe.
I feel like I remember seeing it when I was a kid and just thinking, I wonder why he's in a rocking chair.
There's something going on, yeah.
Like maybe it's just, they're just cool and arty and it's all, that's what the art sort of grungy
he's lost in the music,
he's just in the music. But yeah, you watch it as an adult and just like, that dude's just fucking on drugs. So it's fantastic. But while you're talking about that, have you got any more grunge content, Tom, you're going to talk about later? Or is now a good time for me to bring up my worst post-grunge bands?
Oh, hey, how many do you have? We could go back and forth with them. I was going to bring up some, because grunge is almost like a separate category in itself for the 90s, which didn't get a lot of coverage because not a lot of it was in the number 1 ARIA position. No. I thought I might mention just a few semi-lesser-known grunge hits, not on Nevermind. We can talk about that later then. That's okay. Yeah, that's all right.
Absolutely.
But there's a list of them, so we could go back and forth if you wanted, but if you want to go ahead, then knock yourself out.
That's fine. When you want to talk about that, we can do that. So I've got a couple more awards if you want to. We can get that before we go back. So my peak 90s award is King Missile Detachable Penis. Is that sort of one of those things that you sort of... Well, it's actually a tie between King Missile, Detachable Penis, and Arnie and the Terminator's I'll Be Back. Could King Missile, Detachable Penis exist these days? Or is it just one of those songs that is sort of a weird 90s kind of...
There was a lot of experimental, interesting stuff happening there. Yeah,
it's for those that don't know the song. It's effectively the vocals are just talking. It's just a guy talking, just going about how he's got a detachable penis and he's lost it, and he went to a party and he got really drunk and he lost his detachable penis, and now he has to try and find his detachable penis. And it's like, it's a whimsical it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, I think, in sort of a sense. He's sort of trying to, chart these territories, and he's sort of, he's on a mission.
He does paint a word picture, though.
He paints a very vivid picture.
By the time he finds his penis laid out on a blanket among some, what is it, like semi-working, possibly working cigarette lighters at a swap meet.
A swap meet, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you really get a real visual of it. There's a real sense of relief that he's found his detached penis.
Well, in the video clip, there's no visuals of the penis, but
it's all in your mind.
Image, it's exactly right. It's sort of it's the theatre of the mind, Tom. It creates sort of a vivid picture, and that's what King Missile have done. They've generated this sort of story, and look, I don't know what Peter Jackson's up to now that he's finished off his Beatles documentary, but this could be a feature-length film, I think. Detachable Penis.
Yes, the Jeff Bezos story. Were you a fan of their song "Jesus Was Way Cool"?
Yeah,
do you remember that? That's not a bad one.
I think so. Look,
it's another spoken word thing. This wasn't it wasn't a novelty song. It sort of it functioned that way on radio play, but they had, this was their style. They did other songs in this vein. It's not like this was just, hey, let's do a weird song about a dick,
And this is what I'm going to say. Like, I think King Missile was sort of, because this is sort of early to mid 90s. I think. Is that correct? And it was sort of, they had this song, they had a few other songs. It was sort of that spoken-y sort of vocal delivery. But yeah, look, it's sort of just one of those things that I think was sort of a little bit, alt rock, but somehow worked its way into sort of mainstream, so you sort of knew about it. And I liked it. It's funny in a sort of weird, not funny like I'm laughing out loud, but sort of funny in like a weird, like, they did have some weird stuff in the 90s that sort of broke through. But what I will say is that taking that sort of spoken style of vocals to its logical extreme sort of fits into my next category, Tom, which is the How the Living Fuck Was This Ever Popular award, and that goes to Cake for their entire discography, because that was the same shit.
Not a big Cake fan.
No, it sucked. It was terrible.
Well, this is another thing that happened in the 90s that we haven't even got a chance to talk about, was the whole sort of ska punk scene. We did mention that briefly before, but that was another whole, they were sort of part of that too, I think. Although they're not specifically that style, but they would be on the bill with, no doubt, Madness Touring and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. You know, they were very sort of bass-heavy kind of stuff. He had a kind of speaking style as well.
He did, was a lot of where he'd just go, I will survive as long as I know how to love, I'll I'll stay alive.
I do like some of their songs.
Look, I think I was walking down the street the other day, and I did see a guy that was just flipping out, getting all crazy, like, one of those people that will dance down the street and he'll get into people's faces, and it's sort of like, and I found it kind of funny because on his iPhone he was just playing. What is it? Long skirt.
I want a girl with a long skirt, short skirt, and a long jacket.
And I was just like going, and that was kind of, and I was like going, this dude's out of control, and I'm loving that. But then I went, Cake, I haven't heard of those guys for a while, and then I sort of went and had a bit of a listen, just went, they suck. Apart that, I'm on board with that. But, not a huge fan. Cool. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
And one more award quickly before I cut back to you is Perhaps You Need to Seek Immediate Medical Attention Award. And that goes to the German artist June for their song Can't Stop Raving. So I think if you just can't stop raving, perhaps you need to. That's something you need to have.
The people who can't stop raving are the ones that the salvos end up carrying out of the rave on the stretchers, which happens more often, probably more often back then than it does now, but still,
for sure,
you don't want to be on that stretcher. It's a bad scene.
Absolutely. Tom, do we have time for the most likely to be performing off their fucking heads at a regional food and wine festival in 25 years?
Smash Mouth?
Smash Mouth, correct.
Apart from them. Sorry.
No, it is. I'm joking.
Did you see that?
I did, yeah. You sent it.
In case you haven't seen that YouTube link, which we'll put in the thing, it's the lead singer of Smash Mouth, who is basically spherical at this point. He looks like a bowling ball balanced on top of another larger bowling ball, who's still got a chin beard and Oakleys. He's utterly shit-faced on stage. he's okay. What does he do? He openly just doesn't bother even miming along to the backing vocals, so he's just waving his arm around as though he's conducting his own voice. He does a Nazi salute. He tells the whole crowd that he's going to fucking kill them. Find out where they live and kill them. What else does he do? He says something about how much money he's got. What else does he do? He looks like he's about half a beer short of just flopping it out and taking a piss on the front row. It's pretty great.
It's pretty great, yeah, exactly. It's sort of like that's what. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what happens at a regional food and wine festival in America, but I think if you showed up and Smash Mouth were there, you'd sort of just go like, oh yeah, you know, this is like a novelty from 20 years ago, but if they can get through half a dozen songs, that'll be fine. But to sort of just show up and see a dude and sort of like...
Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly managed the Catalina fucking wine mixer at the end of Step Brothers with a lot more decorum than this twat this actual successful band.
But it's sort of... I don't really... Look, I'm obviously not suggesting that this is the case where it's sort of performance art, but I think that it's sort of...
It's getting pretty close.
It keeps you in the public forum, even if it's in a negative light. Like, at this stage in my life, if someone said to me, there's a food and wine festival in Melbourne, Smash Mouth are performing, the guy is going to be fucked out of his mind, it could be funny... I'm more likely to see that than just an earnest sort of like, oh, Smash Mouth are playing. We're like, couldn't give two fucks about going to see them play All-Star. Hey, now, you're an All-Star. But if I knew that he was going to fall off the stage or like piss on someone, then maybe I'd be there. So I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, it's how you hope that they'll act. Like, if they were if they were professional, that would be boring. You know, or if they were just really bad, that would be boring. But
for sure.
Completely going troppo.
All
right, cool. Should we go back and forth with, what was it, grunge stuff?
Yeah, what do you got?
All right, I was going to go, this is just stuff that I reckon that people may not have heard so much that was pretty good at the time that we were into anyway. Some of it's more alternative, some of it's more grunge, but it kind of fit in the same banner. One of them was Dirty Frank, which is a Pearl Jam, it was a B-side of Even Flow. I know you're not a big Pearl Jam fan. This is strange.
No, they're awful, but humour me, Tom, please.
Strange by their standards. It's just it's a weird, long, sort of digressive rock sort of stomp song about a cannibal tour bus driver, which was like an in-joke I think they had. But it's quite the fun. It's quite the fun, and it's maybe the only song adjacent to 10 that has a sense of humour about itself. I think maybe in some of the international versions of 10, it might have been an added track on it, but we thought it was a kind of B-side, and it's quite funny. Yeah, it's just some joke they had about a shitty tour bus driver, and so they kept elaborating on what he got up to, and eventually, by the end of the tour, that they were convinced he was a midnight murderer who killed children and ate them and stuff. Anyway, so what have you got?
Look, Tom, without a shadow of a doubt, this is.
You're doing the worst post-grunge. Okay,
well, sure. No, kind of, but I think this is. For me, I think this is so under the radar that a lot of people probably, forgot that it actually existed. But can you remember, you probably can't, but remember in 1995 or 1996, around that time when Moby did a grunge album? Remember that?
No.
Post-grunge?
I don't remember that.
Wow.
It sounds like the kind of thing.
So Moby did an album called Animal Rights, because he's all about the animal rights, which is good.
He's vegan AF.
Look, I'm happy with animal rights. That's good stuff. But what is completely bizarre about this is that, so Moby obviously, electronic artist, early 90s, went through that, had a few singles, people sort of enjoying that, and then by the mid-90s he was like, not sure this is going places, released a real dog shit post-grunge punk sort of album with Moby doing some like screamy vocals and a bit angsty, whatever. Ironically, it came out at exactly the same time. It's like the shit he used to be doing sort of became popular.
Oh, okay.
So he did this album, fucking woeful, just really, really, really bad.
I'd believe it.
Grungy sort of, and he's a fucking dickhead to begin with. I mean, he must be one of the most annoying musicians that exists currently on the planet. And then after he did this, he was like, oh shit, it was like panned, no one liked it, and he went back to doing his whatever the fuck he does. And then he had that next album which was super popular where he sampled all the whatever play. Exactly. He's pretty annoying, but go listen to this, it's terrible.
Every interview I read of him, he sounds quite funny and likeable. But there's something to do with... Yeah, I know what you mean. There is something irritating about his persona, and I don't particularly like his music either. But
I don't care for his music. He just seems kind of annoying, but I don't really know whether... maybe I'm just reading the wrong interviews. I'm not sure.
Look, I haven't read one I haven't read anything about him for 10 years or whatever.
He does have some of the finest tattoos going these days, though. He does have, I think... He has animal written down this arm, and then he has rights written down that arm in some of the biggest font happening. And then I think he has vegan for life tattooed on his neck, which is cool. I'm down. If you're a vegan for life, totally fine. But I don't know whether a neck tattoo that just says vegan for life is what you want. So even the members of Earth Crisis don't have that.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were discussing an actor who was famously a massive prick to work with.
Yep.
But there was a pause, and then somebody said, yeah, but he did all that work with, like, animals and that sort of thing, He's, like, famously gave all this money to all these things, so he can't have been a total psychopath. And then they started talking about, like, Morrissey, who, again, was a famous crusader for animal rights and veganism, but he's also a massive dick. And one of the people said, do you think it's possible that some people, like... It's easier to deal with these causes where you don't actually have to be involved with other human beings. It's like it's easier to love something and care for something in the abstract than actual people who you actually have to talk to and deal with their needs and wants and their personalities in existence. Whereas you can love something in the abstract,
Absolutely. Look, this is maybe a controversial take, Tom, but animal rights is so far down the list of priorities in my life that I just...
Hey, look, that's a good example of one of those 90s things where, like I was talking about with the obsession with, like, alien conspiracies and stuff like that, it's one of those things where you think, for people to have been this concerned about Peter and stuff in the 90s, it shows how good... everything fucking else was, like how little else people had to worry about economically and all that other stuff,
And look, I'm not saying that in like a sort of fuck Moby way. All I mean is it's sort of like animal rights, great, but I think if I was a celebrity on Moby's sort of level, I'd be sort of like, maybe I'd sort of be trying to push my efforts into other things that are... Yeah. But I guess animal rights, does tie into sort of bigger environmental concerns about...
It can, but I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, animals have got feelings too. It's like, I'm sure they do, but,
I can't hear you over the sound of the fascist coup that's being staged outside my window.
Exactly. And that's sort of, I guess, the point I'm trying to make, that it's sort of just... look, maybe it's not controversial, but it's just sort of, dude seems a bit shitty.
Okay. Do you know Jawbox? Do you know
I do. Yeah, Jawbox are great.
I don't know much about them, I have to admit, but they did an extremely cool cover of Cornflake Girl. Listened to that the other day. Only fairly close to the original came out, but it rocks out, and it makes you. It's one of those. Your theory cover's always better than the original.
Always is,
Like a really good cover can make you appreciate the original more. You actually go, this has got the songwriting in this is really good. There was that Sarah Blasco cover of Flame Trees by what's his face? Fucking Cold Chisel.
Yep.
Which I must have heard 1,000 times growing up. But sort of when you hear it laid out like that, you're like, the lyrics of this are really clever. And the way the song builds, when it's done in slow motion, you're like, anyway, it's a bit like that anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you're right with Flame Trees particularly. I mean, maybe sort of Barnesy being like, Flame Trees.
Yeah.
And then you
sort of shtick kind of.
And then you sort of hear it and you're like, oh yeah, cool. Absolutely. No, definitely. No, Jawbox are really good. So I think it's sort of...
I should listen to more of their stuff. I won't give it more.
I think sort of mid-90s alt rock that wasn't grunge, that sort of wasn't popular at the time. That sort of sound.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if it's quite grunge.
No, it's definitely not grunge, but sort of things like that.
Into that area.
And some post-hardcore stuff like Quicksand, those sorts of bands. I think in 2021, young people are aping the 90s pretty hard. So I think
they should go back to some of that stuff too.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. So it's good. It's good stuff. Yeah, cool.
What do you got?
Puddle of Mud, Tom. Puddle of Mud.
Their one hit, is it?
Post-grunge, but what I want to bring them up because, they were sort of a 90s post-grunge band, fucking woeful. But I think it was a year or two ago, the Puddle of Mud did a cover of About a Girl, which has to be, and it's on YouTube, and most people have probably seen this, but it is one of the worst covers.
This is the Nirvana song.
Yes. It's the guy, like, I can't even describe it. It's sort of like, imagine you were just trying to be Kurt Cobain, but 150%.
Yeah,
but you just were real shit at doing it.
Even at 100% of Kurt Cobain was about 50% too much Kurt Cobain sometimes,
exactly.
Quite frankly.
So that's worth checking out. These guys suck. They're definitely post-grunge.
What was their one half hit was She Fucking Hates Me? Yeah.
Yeah, they're terrible. So
they're appalling.
So for sure. What else, Tom?
I quite like Mad Season. I'm not sure if people... I think they did okay, but I don't know if they did much here, but they were a sort of quasi-supergroup formed of various members of Screaming Trees, Alice in Chains, and another band that's escaping me at the moment. They had one album before, one of the members overdosed on heroin, and then Lane Staley went back to Alice in Chains, but... It's really cool. Like, it's sort of... That album shows... Like, it's not all listenable. Some of it's just sludgy. But it has sort of a varied approach on it to grunge that a lot of the actual, like, Dirt doesn't have. Which, I like Dirt, but it's a fairly sort of thematically consistent musically. But for instance, there's a really good song called I'm Above, which sort of shows the link between, like, Deep Purple and grunge. Like, that old, stompy... sort of psychedelic rock from the 70s. And a lot of the time, I think it might have been Chris Cornell in an interview, and he said when they talk to grunge people about their influences, everybody always tries to come up with the most obscure Seattle stuff and the weirdest shit they like, and they wear the t-shirts in videos and stuff. But he said, but the truth is, a lot of us just really liked Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and those old rock guys, you know, like the 70s rock dudes. And there's so much of that in grunge. Like if you strip away the fuzz and the distortion and the obtuse lyrics and stuff, then a lot of the song structures are just that sort of, those monster rock dinosaur jam type sounds, and when it works like this, it's really fun. Like, it's a slow build and then it just goes nuts.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You've hit the nail on the head there. I think if a lot of those bands, the grunge bands, I think we mentioned probably last week or the week before, the influence from 70s stuff, Black Sabbath particularly.
Oh yeah,
I think,
for sure, Sabbath
and Led Zeppelin. It goes without saying. Bands, so I think it's sort of one of those things where as a kid I was like, oh, this is all new and great, what's going on? And then sort of as I got a bit older, and I think I actually just dug into my dad's Black Sabbath albums. I was like, oh yeah, I can sort of see some of the stuff between that and like early Soundgarden things. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I can certainly see a connection for this. So yeah, for sure, you're right. I think it's just one of those things where people want to give music a new label, but, it's nothing new under the sun, really, is it? It's sort of all just variations on a theme, and, it's great. I'm glad that we sort of got to have that thing that people thought was really cool at the time, but, yeah, you definitely got to realise that it is connected to something from the past. Nothing just pops out of nowhere without a sort of like...
Certainly not
this
anymore.
Just appeared without no thing to sort of, all young kids listen to something influenced by something, so yeah. For sure, so yeah, look, I could just talk about... Just list shit bands. We're not going to do that. So, what else have you got?
Okay, I've had a few others. There's a song called "Drugs" by Ammonia. Do you remember that? They're Australian. They're about the closest that we came to having something directly in that vein, or anything that got played on the radio. They should have kicked more goals. Australia should have kicked more goals with grunge, really, because it has a lot of similarities to pub rock as well. It's at least in sort of presentation terms.
Yep.
But this song is like the distilled essence of grunge. It's basically one verse and one chorus. It's got 14 words total, repeated until you just want to smoke a bucket and do pop shove-its in someone else's sharehouse lounge room. It's fun. It's still fun. I listened to it the other day. I thought maybe this is one of those ones that was just catchy because I was young, but no, it's fun. Another one that didn't get played a lot was Big Dumb Sex by Soundgarden.
Oh, yep.
That was from Louder Than Love, which was 1989. That was the first grunge album to chart on Billboard at all. It was only like 108. But grunge obviously wasn't even a term then.
Yep.
Like Primus, they were around before grunge and then got lumped in with grunge, even though they weren't really the same exactly. But anyway, this was supposed to take the piss out of 80s metal bands around them at the time. The idea was that they weren't going to use sleazy metaphors and they would just get right to what they were actually talking about.
Yeah.
Hence the chorus, which is, hey, I know what to do. I'm going to fuck you. Yeah, I know what to do. I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to fuck you. Yeah. Now, as promised, that chorus was so successfully dumb that Guns N' Roses borrowed it for a song on Spaghetti Incident. Like the songs it was mocking, it's as stupid as fuck, but good luck getting that out of your head once you've listened to it.
Yep.
Seriously, I had that in my head all day today, that stupid fucking song. And last of all, this is a bit of a stretch, but Jesus Christ, this is influential. I just went back and listened to this again, and it is not only is influential, but this is so good. This is more alternative than grunge for sure, but the Kids soundtrack...
Oh, yeah.
If you're around in the 90s and you don't know this, I'm telling you that you've heard it at a party in a cool shop. I haven't even seen the movie. I think Larry Clark is probably a pedophile, but the soundtrack fucking rules. It really does. It's put together by Lou Barlow, who was a founding member of Dinosaur Jr., Sebadoh, and the Folk Implosion, who are featured here with half a dozen rad songs like Nothing's Gonna Stop the Flow and Natural One, which was like a low-key hit in Australia. It's probably more alternative than grunge. It charted on the alt charts in America, but not here. But yeah, that is a great fucking song. Plus, the Australian release of Natural One was a very strange 5-song EP that was very good to smoke weed to. A lot of this is more punk and alt rock than grunge. Plus, it's got the Beastie Boys, Tribe Called Quest, Daniel Johnston, etc. Generally speaking, if you're wondering the difference between grunge and alternative 90s rock, the easiest way to tell is to check, is the lead singer putting as little emotional effect into their voice as possible while still roughly hitting the notes? That's alternative. Is the lead singer putting as little emotional effect into their voice as possible while still roughly hitting the notes and screaming? Then that's grunge. Either way, the soundtrack fits right into the 90s aesthetic and it still sounds cool as fuck. At least please listen to Natural One if you haven't heard it, because that is a fucking jam. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
all right.
For sure. I reckon I'm going to have to very briefly, Tom, talk about an award for...
Please.
The Best Way to Get Megan Fox into Bed award.
Sure. I'm all ears.
Well, it's
like
obviously
Michael
through...
Bay.
Well, it's definitely through a terrible rap album, so...
Okay. Right.
So, Megan Fox is currently dating, I believe, Machine Gun Kelly.
She is.
Who, I think he's a grunge rocker now, Tom, I believe. So
he's the kind of grunge rocker
he's a rock and
that
roller.
He's a punk for the 90s.
He's a punk rocker. He's a punk rocker. But prior to that, he was a rapper. One of those rappers that they have these days.
Yep.
So I think Megan Fox sort of probably got into... Machine Gun Kelly when he was doing the rap songs. Correct?
Let's say that.
Yes. Let's say that.
She fell in love with his gift for the rap songs.
Do you remember who Megan Fox was married to prior to Machine Gun Kelly?
I do. Was it Brian Gordon Green?
Brian Austin Green.
Austin Green.
From Beverly Hills 90210 that we spoke about before. Now, Brian Austin Green, he was also a rapper, Tom, as you may well know. So his album One Stop Carnival is one of the finest rap albums of the 90s. So
You also presaged the Juggalos with that one quite early on.
absolutely right. One Stop Carnival. So I think that's...
He accidentally shot himself in the head. You know, if only he'd... Sorry, that was a 90210 joke.
It was his friend that...
Was it his friend, was it?
It was his friend, yep. His friend, but yeah, definitely that killed himself. Scott, I believe. That's what I say. Sure. Very sad. Yep. So the One Stop Carnival, Brian Austin Green album, obviously, you know, I think Megan Fox must have heard this and just went, that's the man I want to be with, so it's fantastic. So it is a one-stop carnival in a sense that once you've stopped there, you don't want to go to any other carnivals because it is just so damn good. The single, That's Right, off the album features, if you can believe this, the first ever shout out to the Black Eyed Peas. So the Will I Am, back when he was known as Will 1X back in the day, he did some producing on Brian Austin Green's One Stop Carnival. He just put together his new group, Black Eyed Peas.
I know they started out as a sort of politically active, you know, all rappers. Like, they were quite interesting at one point, believe it or not.
They were, at a time in the past, significantly better than what they are now, which is, you know, not saying much. It's faint praise because they're fucking woeful. But anyway, so Brian Austin Green's One Stop Carnival does feature a shout out to the Black Eyed Peas, which really should have been an indicator of how that group would end up, given that their first shout out in any song was from a Brian Austin Green track. I mean, that's fucking embarrassing. So look,
some would say that was the best.
So that's the thing. So look, if you're into Megan Fox and you find her attractive, I think the best thing to do is to put together a real shit rap album, send it her way, and maybe that will be enough to sort of, you know, point her in your direction. So, absolutely. What else, Tom?
Oh, look. Okay. Well, should we get into bests and worsts? Or what about we could do crazy stuff? I had some weird shit. Did you have the weirdest stuff from the 90s?
I didn't have the weirdest stuff.
I had a few little bits and pieces. I couldn't find one specific. Last time I had Bat Dance, because that's the weirdest thing that happened in the 80s. The Bat Dance video specifically.
Yeah.
Sure. If you've got any categories, please, you know.
Look, Tom, I've got the category of... we've got a song title that's just the name of our group award. It goes to AB Logic for their song AB Logic. Now, look,
watch out for the hit.
No, look, I'm a big fan of AB Logic. I know you are, Tom, as well.
Sure
so look, I know that Tom. Look, I know that. Have you been to Belgium, Tom? Have you?
No.
Yeah, but look, I know. Yeah. Look, I already knew the answer to that question, but I know, Tom, that you will go to Belgium one day. I know that that's on your radar as a place to visit, and I know that it's not because of the chocolate, not because of, you know, I know you love the Belgian shells, that shell chocolate, but it's not for that. The beer, I know you love a beer, but it's not because of that. I know that you love to visit the headquarters of the European Union, but you won't be going for that either, nor the cobbled streets or the picturesque town squares. When you go to Belgium, Tom, I can say it'll be because you want to visit the homeland of AB Logic. Mm-hmm. And that's a fair assessment because that's what a big fan of it you are. So they've got
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme as well, absolutely. So, well, you can do it in both in the same trip.
That's right.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, his hometown, go check that out. And then, Jean-Claude Van Damme and AB Logic. Look, here's the thing. AB Logic, they've got a song that just goes AB Logic. The chorus just goes, AB Logic, AB Logic. I think that's the absolute best thing you can do as an artist. Have a song that is just named after you, and the chorus is just saying your name over and over again. But you're right, Tom. Their biggest song, and my favourite, is obviously the Hitman as well, which is well, it's highly danceable, but also poignant. As one must watch out for the Hitman, Tom. And I think many a great man has forgotten this and been cut down in their prime.
That's true.
You know, JFK, his brother, some other guy, I think, but. I don't really want to speculate about what would happen, but imagine that AB Logic was alive back in the 60s. He had this song out, Watch Out for the Hitman. He's playing this, you know, it resonates with the crowd. People are listening to this. JFK is hearing this. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they're all hearing this song and they're thinking, okay, perhaps I should take on the words of this AB Logic and perhaps I should watch out for the hitman. And if they were to do that, and if AB Logic it's like a sliding doors type thing, Tom, almost like a Back to the Future thing. If AB Logic could travel back in time and just release "Watch Out for the Hitman" in the 60s, perhaps JFK would have heard it. JFK's security team would have heard it. JFK would have paid more attention to the hitman. He would have, had a better security system in place. He would have survived. And I think the whole human history could have been changed. Yes. I think that the course of human history, because we're talking about a man that I think had certain beliefs and certain sort of ideals that when he died, some of those ideals died. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that if AB Logic was alive in the 60s, JFK would have been president for a lot longer, and America would probably be a better country today.
It's quite possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Who would have thought that AB Logic, Eurodance, could have changed the path of world history?
Could change the path of human history. Did you ever see that show 7 Days, Tom? You familiar with this show from the 90s?
The one with the guy got the newspaper early?
That was early edition.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
7 Days is a very similar concept where someone's able to travel back in time
but only
anywhere they want,
days.
but then they can only be there for 7 days. They can travel. So I think
he could quantumly leap back in time 7 days.
No, he could go. I think he could go. I can't remember. I can't remember whether he could go to any time concept, period, yes. But he can only be there for 7 days or anyway. So, but look, all early edition. But yeah, I think if AB Logic had the ability to get back there, he could have released this song. But
it's a TV pilot that's crying out to be made.
I think so. Do you think would the audience have been ready for the Hitman in the 60s though? You think that if Watch Out for the Hitman,
if anyone would have been, it probably wouldn't have been JFK. It probably would have been slightly more likely to be Martin Luther King, just in terms of musical preferences.
Oh, no
possibly.
doubt. No doubt.
Anyway, I know that Malcolm X did love Eurodance. Back then it was called the Charleston, I think.
Yes.
Shows my deep knowledge of musical genres.
Exactly. What do you got for crazy stuff? Hit me up. Must be better than the AB Logic
I couldn't
story.
narrow it down to one thing, so it's little bits of bites here and there. You familiar with DJ Josh Wink? Well, DJ Josh Wink was trying to get a start in the early 90s in New York. One night he came home exhausted after a weekend of sets where he'd had 3 hours sleep and God knows how many chemicals. He sat down to make some music at his computer. He was so munted that the only thing he could get out of himself was weird laughter. So he said, fuck it, I'll just record myself laughing weirdly, which is the kind of thing that makes sense at 5 a.m. on a Monday morning when your pupils are still vibrating and you've got to manually remember to go to the toilet, and when you do, your penis has gone missing. But anyway, he finished it off as a joke song, like a demo. Then a New York club promoter heard it as like background music in something and got hold of it and took him to beat a record label. It was his first single, and still to this day, if you play the extended mix to a bunch of high people in a dark room, it's pretty weird. It's a pretty weird song.
Nice.
It's, yeah. Look, the 90s was an ambiguous decade, Ben, so it's only appropriate that it left us with a lot of unanswered questions, I think. For instance, in the video for Closer by 9 Inch Nails, I can imagine why there might be a live monkey tied to a crucifix. But what's with the naked bald lady in the mask making devil horns with like 2 boiled eggs spinning on the tips of her fingers?
That's a good question.
If Mr. Crinkle by Primus is about Les Claypool just shooting the breeze with Mike Borden from Faith No More, then what the living fuck is happening in the video?
Yeah.
Did Soul Coughing walk into the wrong door of a studio on their way to a poetry slam and get recorded by accident? Did all the Tool videos have actual symbolic meanings, or were you just super duper high when you were watching them? In November Rain, why does that prick jump into the wedding cake just because it starts raining?
That's a good question.
How did Helmet and Primus get lumped into grunge? Was Britpop anything? If it was, what the fuck was happening in Park Life? So many questions.
Too many questions.
So many questions. Like, Kurt Cobain's next album we'll never get to know, I suppose.
Exactly. Oh, look, Tom, I think I've got the ultimate question. Was 1990 the year of the Guru, as Guru Josh suggested?
I think it was for the Guru.
Yep.
I'm not sure if the 90s were the decade of the Guru in the sense that I think he died as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Look, it's all they're very, very good points, Tom, and I agree with all of them. May I just interrupt you for a second? Sorry.
Jesus Christ, this is how fast my memory works these days. Keith. Keith was the guy from The Prodigy who was the fire starter who danced in the video.
There you go.
Sorry,
good.
that was driving me fucking nuts. Please keep going.
For those people from 2 hours ago, who were going, it was fucking Keith.
If you're on LSD and can time travel psychically to the conversation that you were having 2 hours ago,
absolutely.
Knock yourself out.
Cool. All right. Do you want to get into some good stuff? What have you got for
good stuff,
your
bad
best?
stuff. All right. Do you want to do good, best song, worst song, whatever? What do we got? All right.
I can do my lyrics of the decade if you want.
Sure. All right. You do that, and I'll do worst song or something.
Look, Tom, I think I'm going to go straight up with best lyrics of the 90s.
Yes,
so,
that's fine.
Look, anyone that knows me knows that, lyrics, they're the most important part of the song, obviously.
Yes.
Like some people are music people, some people are lyrics people, but for me it's the lyrics. I think it's, while the music, can sort of get you moving and sort of get you grooving, so to speak, I think for me it's the lyrics that really convey that emotion, a certain feeling that puts you in that place or time, and when you hear that song you can sort of be transported back and sort of you sort of feel those same emotions that perhaps you did when you first heard that song, or at a time when you heard that it was quite poignant in your life, something that speaks to you, I guess, at multiple levels. And I guess for me, I really like songs where the lyrics include either one, product placement, or casual racism. So I think they're my two favourite things in a song. So imagine my delight when I first heard LFO's Summer Girls that includes both casual racism and product placement, as well as about 1,000 80s and early 90s references in perhaps the least creative way one can imagine. So I should also point out that LFO is a white boy rap group, and I use the term rap very, very loosely. And LFO stands for Light Funky Ones, which is fantastic. Anyway, the chorus, if you can believe it, is New Kids on the Block had a bunch of hits. Chinese food makes me sick. I think it's fly when girls stop by for the summer. I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Finch. I'll take her if I had one wish, but she'll be gone for that summer, since that summer. Fantastic. So, look, it's really good because, Chinese food does make me sick, and I love girls in Abercrombie and Finch, so it works for me on all those levels. So, and also another thing I should point out is that I guess it is very challenging for a brand when someone destroys decades, if not centuries, worth of goodwill overnight. You know what I mean?
You're not talking about Abercrombie and Fitch.
Well, imagine Fred Perry wasn't that stoked when the Proud Boys adopted their shirts as a uniform.
Yeah, the problem is that the guy who was running Abercrombie and Fitch in this period was one of... In fact, it's really weird that you should be saying that because these guys, LFO, were... put together by, they're sort of C-tier Backstreet Boys knockoff, put together by a guy called Lou Pearlman, who got involved in boy band management for much the same reason that Alan Jones got involved in rugby league, that he was deeply invested in the welfare of fit young Caucasian men, particularly the welfare of how their abdominal muscles look while sheened with sweat.
Yep.
And, despite that, this was their only hit. But... also, the guy running Abercrombie and Fitch at this time was also an incredibly creepy older guy who basically turned what had been a sort of preppy, sports casual, white sort of knitwear polo shirt brand into a sort of borderline pornographic excuse to get hot young men and, far off in a distant paddock, women to cavort with each other in front of him while he gave them advice on, ab-tightening exercises and so forth. So there's just this cloud of creepiness hanging over this whole thing. It doesn't help that the guy who is dropping these dope rhymes in this video looks like the bad guy from a Dawson's Creek episode about date rape, and they were pretty Abercrombie and Fitchy too as well. So, yeah...
Absolutely.
I mean, you're spot on, though. Those are some of the best lyrics of the decade.
Do you think that, the fact that the Abercrombie and Finch was name-checked in this song, have they ever recovered as a brand, or is it sort of just... or does it not matter?
Well, I think the 1-2 punch of LFO and having possibly the creep... I mean... Oh, God damn it. It was like, at this time, there was a creep-off competition going between the guy who ran Abercrombie and Fitch and the guy who ran American Apparel, who was like the underage female sexual predator version of the Abercrombie and Fitch's underage gay, underage male sexual predator version of it. And we're like, who can get the most pornography into our commercials? And weirdly enough, both brands ended up folding, or they both got fired and their brands continued, but in a completely different manner than the way that they had been running them. So
yeah, American Apparel was so weird. I remember sort of like when it was like, it was such a bizarre brand because it was sort of, we're making all of our clothes in America, in California, rather than we've outsourced our stuff overseas, we're doing it right here in America, which is fantastic. We're paying our workers great. So it's sort of like, oh wow, that's great. And then you'd see their adverts in like Device still do the physical magazine.
Yeah, and there's like that Terry Richardson style photo shoot where every photograph looks like the last seen picture of a pornographic actress who went missing aged 16.
Exactly, yeah. I just remember sort of getting the Vice magazine, who are obviously an edgy quote publication and, were at the time. And then, the adverts were just sort of like, that chick is not 18, and that's a pretty weird
Or
pose.
if she is, she's deliberately styled to make her look like she's not.
Exactly.
The Abercrombie and Fitch ones were the same, except it was an entire boys lacrosse team with way off in the distance, maybe a woman standing on top of a house or something like that.
Exactly. So look, there's some of my favourite lyrics of the decade, Tom. Look, but on one positive note, if there is a positive to take from that, it is that it's unlikely that there's going to be an LFO reunion because two of the members are dead. So,
oh, geez. That's a shame.
Well, it's not really, but it depends how you look at it. So,
musically, it's not, but it's a shame. I hope they didn't die from being involved with some horrible sex. Unusually for a rich white guy, he ended up going to jail, not for molesting young boys, but for some sort of tax-related thing.
Look, Tom, it was a Ponzi scheme, and we get to talk about it a lot in the coming weeks.
Oh,
so.
Sure. Do we? All right, I'll shut up about it.
No, not at all.
All right, what do you want to do next? Should we do...
whatever you want to do, Tom.
Worst song? I didn't have much to say for worst song. You got a worst song? I had some runners-up. Runners-up would include probably LFO, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Have you seen Tarzan and Jane by Toybox? That's for people who thought Aqua, this is too edgy. I want something a bit more stripped down and commercial. It's just horrible. It's like some Raggedy Ann and Andy, but with, 20-year-olds been signed from Stock Aitken and Waterman or something. Ultimately, really, there's obviously only one winner, and that has to be Sweat a La 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 Long by Inner Circle, which is just like, as we discussed, it's shithouse pop reggae with an actionable rape threat instead of lyrics. Yep. The video's 4.5 minutes that feel like 4.5 hours. A pack of dickheads waving their arms back and forward like inflatable tube men from outside Crazy John's. And considering the lyrics, I suppose I should be grateful it doesn't involve a basement pit and night vision goggles.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about the worst thing that happened in the 90s. And there were some low points, don't get me wrong. The 90s was not all high points musically, but yeah.
Look, Tom, I think that's a really good choice for worst song. It is completely terrible. But for me, Tom, I think I'm going to have to go for something different.
Sure.
Look, personally, I think that there are two types of people in this world. Those that know every word to Bare Naked Ladies 1 week and sing it with pride whenever it comes on. And those that if it came on the radio while in a car, they'd drive it off a bridge to avoid having to hear another note of that song. It must be one of the most excruciating songs that I've ever heard in my life. And I just dare anybody to sit through the whole thing without wanting to punch themselves in the dick.
It doesn't make you feel like ordering some chickadee China, the Chinese chicken.
No.
You eat a drumstick and your brain stops ticking.
Just a sort of, people give white rappers a lot of shit, but imagine that in like a sort of middle-aged dad band.
Canadian, college band.
Yeah, so for me, that's one of the worst. One of the worst of the decade that we haven't spoken about, because in previous weeks, things I think like Pretty Fly for a White Guy and, obviously Lou Bega are just fucking pitiful songs, but I don't know.
That's got a special something to it, and I will hand it to millennials for strip mining our shitty 90s stuff, the brown side of the 90s, and getting some comedy value out of that song and also Smash Mouth, to the point where you can now, the opening word of both of those songs is essentially a meme where somebody, like that is basically a meme, and as is it's been, that those two things, they're like a Sonic meme, those two things, like Shrek, they're like this kind of thing. They've like recycled it into this. How fucking stupid was that? And I have to say, you're right, it was, and it is funny that I'm glad you get some enjoyment out of this, because there wasn't a lot to be gained at the time for it.
Oh, not at all. Absolutely. So have you got any more worst? Or are you going to hit up the best?
Worst video, I was going to say. Worst video, I mean, there's a lot of contenders, but worst video, I'm going to have to give it to... This is a left field pick. This is Butterfly Kisses by Bobby Carlyle. Bob Carlyle.
I know this one,
Bob Carlyle is from the Christian music scene.
Oh, good.
Although this song was fairly popular, it was covered by a lot of different people. This was written in 1996 for his 15-year-old daughter. Now, one way to look at this song and the accompanying video is that it's a sort of schmaltzy but well-intentioned ode penned by a father to his daughter as he watches her reach the first footsteps of adulthood, featuring a lot of breathy Michael Bolton-style neck throat-choking vocals, a simple melody, and a lot of accompanying images of a little girl playing on a swing in slow motion, dancing with her dad, running through a field, etc., disembodied child's hands playing with flowers, etc. Another way to look at it is the high watermark of Christian America's totally normal fixation on the relationship between a virgin daughter, her white gun-owning father, and our Lord Jesus Christ. That, plus the idea that at a certain age, as in one of the tribal societies these people are super chill about bombing the fuck out of, the father will ceremoniously pass his property, the daughter, over to another adult male who has proven his value by being second in charge of a local jet ski dealership. And a third way to look at it is that this song is the sort of thing a sex murderer would send to tell the FBI in a movie about a sex murderer, that Butterfly Kisses would make the perfect name for such a movie. And lastly, that if you played this video in slow motion and got a child to whisper the lyrics of the song over the top, you wouldn't even need to cut a new trailer for the movie Butterfly Kisses, a terrifying expose of a sex murderer lurking in suburbia. Lyrics such as, "Sweet 16 today, she's looking like her mama a little more every day, one part woman, the other part girl, to perfume and makeup from ribbons and curls, trying her wings out in a great big world. But I remember butterfly kisses after bedtime prayer, little white flowers all up in her hair, walk beside the pony, daddy, it's my first ride. I know the cake looks funny, daddy, but I sure tried." Jeez. That was later covered by Westlife and Cliff Richard. So, you know, totally normal. And yeah, imagine the video. Whatever you're thinking in your brain, it's that. It's something that David Lynch would come up with on a slow weekend.
Look, fantastic, Tom. And look, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to suggest that Christians should be banned from performing all kinds of music. So I think it's sort of, yeah, sort of, you know, well, look, as a society, I think that's where we need to go to.
I'm sure he's still touring.
Hope so.
Okay, what have we got to now?
Look, I've got video of the decade.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, look, my video of the decade, Tom, look, it's a tie between MC Hammer, Too Legit to Quit, and
I don't remember that
MC
one.
Hammer, Pumps and a Bump. So
I do remember that one. Yes.
So I think Hammer, I think this is during his funky headhunter stage, Tom. Mm-hmm. So I just think that effectively he has produced two of the finest videos of the decade. Mm-hmm. And I really couldn't. I tried as hard. I watched them both several times, but sort of, you know, to sort of pull them apart and say which is better than the other, almost impossible to do. So look, I think I'll start with Too Legit to Quit. So to explain Too Legit to Quit, we need to take a step back, a little bit of a step back in time, to a man who died at the right time before investigative journalists could put him behind bars, Michael Jackson. So he'd released a series of longer sort of short film style videos.
His videos were getting increasingly elaborate as time went on.
Thriller obviously was a big one, and then other ones we've talked about prior in the decade, such as Black or White, where he revealed he's a racist against Asians. Jam, where we were supposed to believe that he could have been a basketball player. Or Remember the Time, where we learned that Michael Jackson was just a pile of dust that could shapeshift into a human.
And then he really hated parked cars.
And exactly. So
fucking oath he did not.
They were all long videos,
Yep.
and also you can't, Bad, of course, as well. He did that one as well.
He tried to
Beat
warn
It.
us.
So
Yep.
he had heaps of these sort of quite cinematic films, I guess, sort of short films. So MC Hammer threw his hat into the ring with this sort of short film style music video. And I guess what we're left with is part garbage, part insanity. It goes for 15 minutes, Tom, if you can believe that. So 15 minutes
15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely, very, very long. So you start with Jim Belushi playing the role of a newscaster.
Of course you do.
Presenting breaking news that, quote, Hammer is quitting the business. So it's Hammer's quitting. So Jim Belushi's doing that, sort of talking about how Hammer's quit, and he's also, and while he's doing this, Jim Belushi's also doing some alleged comedy, which is sort of just him going like, Hammer, you think you're so good? It's so unfunny that it's sort of it's so unfunny that I can't even fathom to sort of begin what that's sort of all about. So yeah, then a bunch of celebrities sort of show up to sort of also say, after Jim Belushi said, oh, look, Hammer's quit, can't believe this. All these celebs, Jim Belushi's like, let's see what the public is saying. What are the general public saying about Hammer quitting? So we've got Freedom from CNC Music Factory, David Faustino from Married with Children, Danny Glover, Joe Smith, who's the president of Capitol Records, the Boys, whoever the fuck they are, Henry Winkler shows up.
Okay, the Fonz, sure.
Ralph Tresvant from New Edition.
Okay.
Tony Danza, Donnie and Mark Wahlberg, Eazy-E and DJ Quick, who it's actually quite funny. This is the only good part of the video because they basically saying, all the guys come out and say, Hammer's quit, and then they say to Eazy-E, Hammer's quit. And he's just like, who? So that's the only funny part of the video. Eazy-E pretending he doesn't know who Hammer is. Then there's Queen Latifah, Ecstasy, and Milli Vanilli.
XTC? The British...
No, some dude just called Ecstasy.
Oh, okay. So, that makes a bit more sense.
So it's a whole fucking poor crew of dudes. So anyway... So they're all saying, can't believe Hammer's quit, can't believe they've quit. Then they cut to the James Brown mansion. Yeah. Which is sort of where you expect us to go.
House next door.
Where Hammer's working out in just underpants in the basement for about a minute and a half.
God almighty.
In one of the most unnecessary montages ever put to tape. It's just him sweating in James Brown's basement, like punching stuff.
He
it's
was
crazy.
one of the few male rappers to sexually objectify himself repeatedly. Like, this was not the first time.
Oh, he was absolutely ripped. He was absolutely ripped in this, so I don't deny that. So, yeah. So, anyway, effectively, Hammer asked the Godfather, who is James Brown, if he can enter his chamber.
Euphemism.
And then the Godfather, James Brown, states that, yes, you can enter. James Brown then hits Hammer with a Street Fighter 2 style lightning ball. So, just goes... shoots these lightning balls out. And he does this about 10 times. Hammer's flying around the room, getting hit by all these James Brown things. And then all of a sudden he says to him, be strong, good son. Now you have received the gift.
Okay.
The last fireball that hits Hammer burns clothes onto him. So it's like a sort of reverse fire thing where the fire... I've never seen this before. Fire can, burn stuff away, but the fire burns a suit onto him.
That's the magic of the Godfather.
Exactly. And then James Brown says to him, look, Hammer, you've got the suit, you're ready to go. And remember, never quit because you're too legit. And then he asks Hammer to bring back, quote, the glove, end quote. So then Hammer and his posse are astro-projected in a spinning globe into the stadium to perform a song.
Hang on. Sorry, just to interrupt.
Yep.
Wasn't Hammer dead? Didn't you tell me that Hammer died?
He kept getting hit by the Street Fighter.
No, but weren't the people at the start of the video...
Oh, no, they just said he quit.
Oh, that was just for quitting. Okay,
yeah, he quit the game. He wasn't dead, no, he quit.
I was imagining a funeral attended by the guy from New Edition and Easy. Sorry,
keep going. No, he just quit.
He merely quit.
Just to quit, yeah.
Imagine if he died. Fuck,
now, Tom,
shitting himself.
When I watched this on YouTube, the video is so fucking long that they inserted an ad in the middle of the video clip. If you can believe that. So you're watching this MC Hammer video clip, and you've got all that bullshit with him hanging out and
it's
doing
got
that
an intermission where you go and take a piss and come back.
Exactly, for sure. So then you go take a piss, and then you come back, and then it's 6 minutes of the actual song after that fucking 9-minute bullshit interlude, and it's Hammer moves, including the now popular too legit to quit hand gesture. You know, the 2 fingers up,
yes.
and then the L, and then 2 again, and then you do the slice across the
It is kind of impressive how fast they do it. They've obviously practiced that hand gesture quite a lot.
And then the's a part in the middle that just sounds like the backing vocalists are saying, get fucked, 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 over and I don't know what the fuck they're saying, but it totally sounds like they're just saying that. And then he dance flies over the crowd, so he's like dancing, but just flying over the crowd. And then, so that's just 6 minutes of that, just going, too legit to quit, dance flying over the crowd. And then at the end of the clip, we see what is purportedly the hand of Michael Jackson with a glove. The glove does the too legit to quit. I suspect it may just be an actor and a replica glove. It might not actually be Michael Jackson. But then, look, Hammer did keep releasing music after this, so it did appear that he perhaps was too legit to quit. And also, let's face it, this is basically a Eurodance track. So it's meant to be hip-hop, but it sounds like a Eurodance is going... It's a bit of a funky sort of
Do you reckon Michael... Because they did hang out a little bit, purportedly. Do you reckon Michael Jackson encouraged him to really explore the form of the music video as a genre? And just say, look, if you want to have a 7-minute intro and a 7-minute outro, a lot of which is just you grabbing your own balls or lying around in your underpants, just knock yourself out. Who's going to stop you?
Who is going to stop you?
You're too legit.
Right. You're too legit to quit, exactly right. So look, that's a 15 minutes.
Too
legit to quit.
I'm trying to do the finger gesture. It's quite hard.
Too legit to... Yeah, I mean, people still do it to this day, don't they? I mean, all the time. So look, that's probably the only clip that is as good as that is MC Hammer's other song, Pumps and a Bump. Now look, this video clip, if you've not seen this one, Hammer's in his pool with a cordless house phone, which is great, talking to someone, and then he's got a waterfall that he turns on with a remote control.
It's at his mansion in the backyard. He's got a kind of concrete waterfall type swimming pool deal, yes.
And then he switches it on with a remote control, which is great. And then the video, so what happens is the video starts off in black and white. Then he turns on the waterfall with a remote control. It turns to colour.
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
It is like the Wizard of Oz, exactly. In many ways, life becomes real once the water fountain is on. Now... Yeah, as you said, this is filmed at Hammer's house in Oakland, and apparently Hammer's wife was out for the day, purportedly. This is sort of the rumour that... actually, interestingly, I used to work with... When I lived in Tokyo, I lived with a girl who was from Oakland, and she said that if you went past Hammer's house, there was just like a big gate, and it had like 2 hammers crossed on like the fence, which is fucking so sick, like just... 2 sort of like metallic hammers on there. So yeah, apparently this is his house in Oakland. Wife was out for a day, and when she returned home, she was distressed to find, like 100 chicks just in bikinis, like doing dancing around and whatever. So
the weirdest thing is that he was married.
Yeah, exactly. It's completely bizarre. Anyway, but what makes this video so great is that Hammer's wearing a zebra swimsuit and has a boner for the whole video clip.
By a swimsuit, do you mean man thong?
Man thong, yeah. He basically just is wearing the smallest sort of, man thong bikini you've ever seen.
We're not talking like tasteful Calvin Kleins here or whatever. We're talking a men's swimming pouch of the kind that you really only see these days on 65-year-old Italian men on Perth's beaches.
Absolutely. And he's erect the entire fucking time.
Yeah, we're not just talking about he's tucked a sock in there or he's bulge. He's packing half a bar.
Absolutely boned up to the max. Where are those Hammer pants when you need them? I think that's the question that a lot of people
So then the
ask.
question becomes... Could this possibly have been an accident? Like he was just getting so happy looking at his waterfall and his chicks. Or did he do that on purpose, like male stripper style, get half a bar, put an elastic band around it, just for the effect?
Look, it's really hard to know what's going on with this. But look, I think what happened was also a lot of, I think MTV refused to play this. A lot of music video places referred to it. So they had to make an alternate music video where everyone's just wearing way too many clothes. So I think sort of overcompensating for the fact that there's the lack of clothes in this original one.
Yeah.
And look, Hammer was referring to himself as the funky headhunter at this point, as I mentioned. And look, maybe drugs are involved and this whole thing was just a cry for help. I don't really know. I don't really know.
I'm sure everyone at that party was just high on life.
Absolutely. So look, they're my two favourite video clips of the year, and an honourable mention goes to Adam's Groove.
That's more fun.
Yeah, I mean, where Hammer, he gets decapitated with a guillotine in the first scene, and then we just see a decapitated Hammer head bouncing around the Addams Family mansion rapping.
Sure.
And then he's in a spinning device from like Lawnmower Man as well after that.
One of those centrifuge things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's red hot.
Sure.
So what do you have for me?
All right, well, what else have we got? Best album, best song?
Yeah, hit me with both.
I was going to do music video, wasn't I? Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, like the 90s was truly a golden era for music videos, I reckon. Do you think so?
Oh, no, without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, some things I think I might be being a bit nostalgic about, but truly I think, I don't know if it's going to be beaten again. Like, thanks to the music that was in vogue at the time, the variety of stuff, the limits of, effects, the sort of sexless fashion, and the fact that free-to-air TV was still pretty censorious. For instance, like you couldn't just have giant photorealistic rapping CGI dinosaur genitals, Because of that, people had to be more inventive, and they generally were. Like people like Spike Jonze, David Fincher, Chris Cunningham, Michael Gondry, Mark Romanek, Gus Van Sant, and so forth were doing stuff in 3 minutes that most mainstream movie guys couldn't pull off in 2 hours. If you start looking at music videos, there's really iconic music videos from the 90s. There's too much gold to choose from. You've got Smells Like Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Coming On by The Shaman, which features 3 dozen dancing Jason Stathams wearing only leopard print budgie smugglers before he was famous. There's Learn to Fly by the Foo Fighters, where the band play the entire crew and all the passengers of 747, and then Tenacious D gives everybody drugs. Setting Sun by the Chemical Brothers, Window Liquor and Come to Daddy by Aphex Twin. There's Scream, that's the video where Michael and Janet Jackson finally switch places and become one person in a spaceship, which they probably owned. There's Always by Bon Jovi, we've already mentioned that. There's Prince doing Get Off at the 1991 MTV Awards, which is like the fall of Rome with arseless chaps. Every video Bjork released for a decade. All Is Full of Love, Human Behaviour, the Ren and Stimpy one directed by a pedophile. Maybe not so much that one, but, really, there was... So I've tried to narrow it down to just something that was really iconic, not necessarily the highest quality, perhaps. And I ended up with Smack My Bitch Up by The Prodigy, previously mentioned, fairly controversial song, for obvious reasons. The video is directed by Jonas Akerlund, who was a former member of the black metal band Bathory, before going all hardcore as the director of Roxette's music videos. He did pretty much all of their earlier videos. He went on to work for Madonna, Pink, Rammstein, Lady Gaga, Duran Duran, etc., etc. He's still doing music videos today. He's done a number of controversial ones recently, even including Pussy by Rammstein, which is basically hardcore pornography. Yep. And he did the Telephone Lady Gaga song, which is the one where Lady Gaga goes to jail and then Beyonce rescues her and so forth. Anyway, the song Smack My Bitch Up was dodgy enough, thanks to the chorus, which is a sort of sample of a Kool Keith song. Most radio stations wouldn't play it. The older ones for the swearing and the younger ones for the misogyny, or implied. The video takes place in first person, which makes it extra confronting, and features, among other stuff, binge drinking, cocaine use, violence against men, violence against women, sexual violence, sex work, nudity, intravenous drug use, vomiting, property destruction, grand theft auto, drink driving, lesbian sex, and doing a wee-wee in a toilet. Jack Thompson, for instance, probably wouldn't have liked this video very much. According to Liam Howlett, there's a realness to that video. Most people have had nights out like that, off their head on coke and drink. It's not to everyone's taste, but not everything we do is. No radio station was going to play the song, so we thought we'd make a video that no one would fucking play either. So, yeah, despite all of that, the song got to 41 on the ARIA charts. It was a top 10 hit in Finland, Scotland, Norway, New Zealand, Hungary, Spain and the UK. Whatever else you reckon, there is something to be said for writing a chart hit that's so calculatedly offensive that even now, 25 years later, when you can say cunt on TV, most stations still won't play it. With a video that you still can't watch on YouTube, it's still not on there, or most TV channels. It's not just sex and violence either. Like, I reckon he's onto something with the video anyway. Watching someone throw up on camera is never great, but watching someone throw up from a first-person perspective, especially against the wall of a car park under a flickering streetlight, will give a lot of people a moment of sort of involuntary, visceral recall that they didn't really need, which you can't just get from just showing some actor pretending to chuck up pea soup, you know. Yeah. What did you think? Do you still find a reaction to that video, or does it all just seem a bit sort of 90s and, you know? Oh no, it's the best.
I think it's absolutely the best video of the decade. It's probably I honestly, legitimately would have selected probably the same one. So it's I watched it a few days ago, just off the basis that I thought you would choose this one based on previous discussions. Still fucking great. It's a really, really good song. Super catchy, and yeah, you're right. They chose a sample or whatever the lyrics for the chorus that made them know that it wouldn't be a popular song. So, as they said, why not produce an equally not watchable video? I remember watching it on Rage in the 90s, and they'd put like a warning before the clip that came on. But look, it's really good because it is just such a sort of, you're right, very visceral sort of video clip. And look, don't want to spoil it, but there's like an M. Night fucking Shyamalan style twist at the end that just sort of like, it's sort of, it's like effectively, holy shit, Bruce Willis was dead the whole time in The Sixth Sense type action. So twist at the end, great video clip. It is really, really well done, and I think I can't really recall seeing a music video in recent years that sort of sticks with you. No, you know what I mean? Like it sticks with you, even if you don't like the song. I mean, that's sort of irrelevant. I think sort of it's a music video that you watch and you sort of, and I feel like there was a period of time where everybody would play. Like we have guest programmers doing Rage in Australia, which I guess means sort of weekly music video thing where they'll get someone to choose their favourite video clips.
Yeah, it might be a visiting band or a local artist who's coming up or whatever, and just say, hey, can you just choose 3 hours worth of music videos and then introduce them occasionally.
And I'd say there was a period of time where every single musician chose Come to Daddy.
Window
Liquor, one of those Aphex.
Smack My Bitch Up.
Exactly, and I think this is the one of the three that sort of probably is less known these days, or less popular, probably because it is just hard.
Certainly people don't know Jonas Ackland as well as they know Chris Cunningham, even though Chris Cunningham seems to have vanished off the face of the earth, and Jonas Ackland is still doing videos now, as
absolutely mentioned. But yeah, you can get I think you can watch the other ones on YouTube, but the fact that you can't watch this on YouTube, it's
saying something, isn't it?
For sure.
Like Lady Gaga was deliberately trying to be as edgy as possible. Like that telephone video is fairly edgy. It's got some, but it's still nothing. She still wouldn't do this.
No. So
it's button pushing, but it works. Like it's not empty. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really, really good. And yeah, I think it's that comment, that sort of that quote that you read from The Prodigy. I think that's sort of spot on. Where it's just sort of, if no one's going to play it, you may as well do something
interesting. Just pay some guy.
And it's cool because when you do music videos, a lot of the whole point of them is publicity, really, to sort of get them played and to get them shown. So to make a music video that no one's going to show.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
And one other thing too, like for any younger bands out there or people who are sort of starting out, as I sort of previously mentioned, this video would not have cost that much money to make.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the kind of thing that would require special effects, or not, complicated stuff that didn't need a big cast. You don't need special locations or anything. You could make something that sticks in people's heads 30 years later with not that much money, really, if you just have a really good idea or you're willing to do something really interesting.
I think if the director obviously had the idea of what they wanted to do, and it's sort of like, if you've just got a camera And it's like, we can do this in a night out. You can go to a nightclub.
You just need a few very game actors.
And you can just punch. Exactly right. So it sort of seems like, I'd be really interested to know whether they sort of did the whole thing in like one evening or how they went about doing it. But very, very good. So fantastic.
What should we finish off with? What have we got? You got more categories, or you want to do best song, best?
I don't want to do best anything, Tom, because nothing's good. I'm joking.
No, that's all right.
No, it's fine.
Do whatever you like.
Absolutely. Look, I've got my artist of the decade.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to pull out. So is now the right time?
Yeah, go for it.
Fantastic. All right, cool. So look, I don't want to disappoint anyone here, but my artist of the decade is obviously Vanilla Ice. Goes without saying.
I mean, he's left an indelible.
Yeah, look, I could choose a very, someone obscure. People might be like, oh, why didn't you choose, Moby?
Hey, this is a podcast about number ones, okay?
Oh, look, the reason I've chosen Vanilla Ice as artist of the decade is because at the start of the decade, unknown. No one knew who he was, yeah? So... Yep.
True.
Then he dropped Ice Ice Baby in August 1990, so very, very start of the decade. And look, effectively, this was just the baseline of another already popular song, Under Pressure. And then that was just the whole song. So did that, just got the sample of Under Pressure, did some pretty shit raps over the top of it, and he was massive. So
sure.
It was released in September 1990 to the Extreme, which was just a reworked version of Hooked, which was released on an independent label in the late 1989, I think it was. So sold 11 million copies. And that's pretty impressive considering the album was effectively just Ice Ice Baby and nothing else that was memorable. A terrible cover of Play That Funky Music, and that was effectively it. But what I like about the album is it also featured the completely forgotten single I Love You, which had an accompanying music video by Michael Bay. Michael Bay directed the video from I Love You.
Yeah, so you can mention him as well. He started out doing music videos too.
And at this stage, Vanilla Ice is full American flag sequin tracksuit, which must be, and also I Love You, legitimately, and I say this with no hyperbole, must be one of the worst songs of the 90s, without a shadow of a doubt. If you think Vanilla Ice is...
I've heard it.
Oh, it is... I mean, that's the thing, it's forgotten. It is so bad that it's just completely forgotten. But if you think Vanilla Ice's rapping was inadequate, then wait until you hear him sing over some real low-budget New Jack Swing type material. So it's just awful. The chorus is literally just him not even trying to sing, just saying, I love you, over again.
Oh, God.
I love you. I love you. And it also, the weirdest thing is, 2/3 of the way through the song, usually in a lot of these sort of 90s dance, sort of 90s songs, you'd have sort of like the singing bit and then there'd be the rap part of the way through. But because he sort of talks, singing, semi-rapping the whole way through, they sort of figured that they need to do something different in that sort of bridge part. So what they do is you get a spoken word part where Vanilla Ice is doing it over a telephone.
I know that effect. They used to do that in the 90s. Yeah, they'd have a middle bit where they'd be... It's like you're cutting to them earnestly talking to their partner.
They've done the telephone effect. Yeah, it's exactly that. But this part with him talking on the telephone in the middle part, it sounds like it was ad-libbed in one take. It's so inane, even by Vanilla Ice standards. It's sort of as if he hadn't pre-prepared it, because he just goes on the phone and just goes, girl, when I first saw you, it was love at first sight. We've been dating for about 2 years now, and I still feel the same. I know I haven't said it much before because it gets all choked up inside and it just won't come out. But I love you. It's fucking so bad. I can't believe that someone in the studio didn't say, dude, this is fucking woeful. Let's just not do this.
Well, I will give credit to whoever the fuck wrote the script for Cool as Ice, the globe-spanning blockbuster smash Vanilla Ice vehicle. Yeah. They do not give him any dialogue like that in the film. No. He almost never has to say anything actually earnest or delivered with any emotional complexity to it, because they probably figured out what would happen if he did do that.
Exactly. So he released, obviously to the Extreme, 11 million copies, which is crazy when you consider that it has, one hit, one shitty cover, and then a bunch of other garbage. And then this success sort of, I guess the record label said, look, let's pump this out hardcore. So this was backed up with a completely unnecessary live album released less than 6 months after To the Extreme in March 1991. So it featured a couple of new songs, but it was just sort of like a live, let's do the shitty Ice Ice Baby and other stuff. Sold over 500,000 copies in the US, so not too bad for a pretty bad live album. And then there was an appearance on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze soundtrack, released around the same time as the live track, and the live album, and that he did the ninja rap. You know, go ninja, go ninja,
he
go.
He actually had
go.
a bit of a public feud with MC Hammer, if I recall correctly.
He absolutely did, yeah, definitely. And it was also around this time that he weirdly featured in the Madonna sex book. Remember
yes. I think were they briefly dating for a moment in the 90s history.
So there was a period of time where Vanilla Ice was the biggest thing in the world, and so was Madonna, and obviously their paths crossed to the point that he ended up in the sex book, which just seems completely bizarre now to think that Madonna would have dated Vanilla Ice, but who the fuck knows? So yeah. Anyway, then the film Cool as Ice arrived in October 1991 with the accompanying soundtrack. As we mentioned earlier, the first single off that soundtrack, Everybody Get Loose, features Naomi Campbell on lead vocals. So look, certainly renowned for lead vocals.
What the fuck were they thinking?
So 10 tracks on the album, Vanilla Ice performed about half of them. So look, in a little over a year, he had the first rap number one single, rap number one album. He'd sold 11 million albums.
Yep.
He had a live album, soundtrack appearance on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a film, and his own soundtrack accompanying that film.
Wow, he was riding high.
Absolutely riding high. Now, weirdly, his second album was released in 1994, and it seemed that he'd burned through all of his Ice Ice Baby goodwill by the time that Mind Blowin' was released, which sold 40,000 copies.
Oh, baby. So, hang on, when did the first album come out?
1990.
Okay.
And he sold 11 million.
So he spent 4 years smoking weed.
Yeah.
And that strangely did not improve his songwriting prowess.
Yeah, and look, this
40,000
down from 11 million. So look, this raises a number of questions. So for me, what I found interesting was that, look, so his record label, okay, so they've got an artist on their hands that has sold 11 million albums.
Yeah.
So effectively at that point, you sort of think, okay, we've sold 11 million albums with one song. Wouldn't you be doing everything you could as a record label to say, hey, look, we've got this guy. Let's get, if we can capture even a fraction of that success, fantastic. So who are the hottest producers? Let's get those guys. Let's hire the guys.
Yep.
Someone that's really big to produce the album, get a songwriter in to maybe help with the lyrics. You just do anything that you can, you know what I mean? Because it's sort of like, even if you sell a quarter of that, you're still selling 2-3 million albums. Yep. You're doing a pretty good job. So it sort of, it goes back to why did they say, let's do a live, because it was the same record label that said, let's do the live album, let's do the Teenage Mutant Ninja soundtrack, let's do Cool as Ice. The record label sort of did all those things, whereas perhaps if they had have just put a bit of money into saying, let's just try and make another rap album that's the same sort of quality
before people figure out what's going on.
So Tom also mind blowing complete image makeover. If you I don't know if you can recall that. So 11 million albums, you just think, let's just stick with the formula. But this was so poorly thought out bong smoking phrase of Vanilla Ice. He had dreadlocks.
Of course he did.
And he was like rocking it out. Now, Tom, the single Roll 'Em Up. You've smoked marijuana before, haven't you?
Once or twice.
We both of us have sort of mutual friends that have been smoking marijuana for 20, 25 years. Yep, correct. Almost, effectively their entire adult life.
Yes.
So, we've been in and around the marijuana.
That's fair to say.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
That we know that sort of thing?
Yep.
So thinking about your own experiences, my own experiences, our friends that are in there, and just sort of associates that you've met across the years that sort of have offered you drugs or sort of met to sort of smoke some of that marijuana. Have you ever once heard anyone say to you, Tom, you want to roll up the Hootie Mac?
No, I can't say that I
Never
heard anyone invite me to roll up the Hootie
Vanilla Ice in the song "Roll 'Em Up." The chorus is roll up the Hootie Mac. Come on, roll up the Hootie Mac. That may be one of the problems with the album, Tom, that if you're going to be singing about smoking the marijuana, you probably want to use vernacular that's actually sort of used by the general public rather than making up your own.
I suppose it might explain the name of the band Hootie and the Blowfish, which doesn't make much.
Might be about rolling up the Hootie Mac, perhaps. I don't really know. So that song's terrible, as is the other single, The Wrath. Just fucking absolute garbage. But here's the thing, like, how bad must have the stuff between To the Extreme and this been, where 99.5% of your fan base drop off? Because you've sold 11 million, now you've sold 40,000. Crazy.
I think the world changed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And in every aspect of it. I think also, possibly the whole bong smoking thing might have had something to do with the fact that not only had all other forms of popular music changed, but hip-hop, the genre that he theoretically belonged to, had also drastically changed.
Yeah.
So not only was a white guy out of fashion, but the whole style of MC Hammer type dance rap was completely out of fashion as well.
Yeah,
it was like, well, no one's going to buy him as a gangster rapper. Like, so what are we going to do here? Well, it's the only way to go is the Kevin Federline route, where people will think he's cool if he smokes a lot of bongs.
Yeah.
It turns out that doesn't work, especially if you've got white dreadlocks.
Yeah, I guess Cypress Hill Black Sunday had just come out, and so everyone was all about smoking the weed.
That's right.
So look, that was that went real bad.
It didn't go great, did it? Jesus Christ.
So much so that by the next album, 1998, he'd had to completely reinvent himself again. This time, Tom, in a rap metal band. Okay. Because obviously...
Wicked Wisdom style.
Wicked Wisdom style. 1994, things didn't work out with his rolling up the Hootie Mac. So fortunately, between then and 1998, we had sort of your Korn, your Limp Bizkit type thing.
True.
So he released an album, Hard to Swallow, which was a rap metal version of Vanilla Ice's, patented moves. And so much so that he also did a cover of Ice Ice Baby on that called Too Cold, where he just new metals up Ice Ice Baby.
It's always a good sign, desperately covering yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
In a
and
different genre.
I don't think I need to say this, Tom, when I say that album was also terrible. So look, the reason he's my artist of the decade is because I find it amazing that he went from unknown to biggest dude in the world through to requiring 2 image and music makeovers within the space of 10 years.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, sort of being kind of a joke, but then as time has sort of gone on, I think his influence is kind of, is it undeniable?
He's become kind of ironically funny.
Yeah.
But I don't think his musical influence has lasted.
His musical influence is not at all
culturally, though.
For sure. Look, the number of copycat white rappers that sort of came after that was sort of obviously a lot. But look, the fact that he's a white rapper of dubious quality doesn't necessarily suggest that we should look at that as a good thing. But look, definitely... in terms of credibility, it's funny because I think that you look at someone like Eminem, and I don't really know whether Eminem, obviously significantly more talented as a rapper and as a lyricist, but I wonder if those sort of people looked at Vanilla Ice and just went, I can't just come out and be like a white rapper. I need to hitch my wagon to some... Because, Eminem obviously... teamed up with Dr. Dre, who was obviously very credible because of his work in NWA, etc. And that sort of, I don't know whether that helped, whether it was sort of like, you're a white rapper, but you have the respect of sort of a hip-hop legend in the sense of by the late 90s, Dr. Dre was obviously someone that had been around for 10 years and everyone was Dr. Dre.
Probably in a good way, it might have sent the message to record companies, even the ones run by old white guys, which is most of them, to say, like, look, don't bother with white rappers. unless they've actually got actual talent
Yeah, that's
anymore.
true.
Like, this is the world no longer, by 1994, the world can no longer support a guy who's just white and can dance, and the novelty of the fact that he's sort of rapping a bit is done. So don't come back, don't talk to me again unless Dr. Dre gives you the stamp of approval for the guy.
Absolutely.
You know.
But weirdly, I'd say that in 2021, there's still dog shit white rappers that get by just on the fact
yes,
of being
but
like...
now we've come back again because Eminem and so forth have made it sort of, that it's potentially possible again, Unfortunately, probably, because most of them aren't as good as Eminem. Yeah.
Cool, all right, I'll edit this out later and think of a better... Artist of the decade. No.
No. Hey, look, cool. Like culturally, certainly he made a huge footprint. But yeah.
Absolutely. Cool, Tom. What do you want to do?
Best album.
Yeah,
I was going to do. Best album, the 90s. That is almost impossible, but arbitrarily. OK Computer by Radiohead, that was 1997.
Yep.
Dave Grohl said he saw them play Paranoid Android on stage after that album came out. And he said he felt like it was another musical sort of mini revolution, just the way like grunge had been. And he was watching it sort of happening, which is kind of ironic because grunge was where Radiohead started from. With like Pablo Honey and Creep, obviously, which, sort of... shortly afterwards, anyway, OK Computer was voted the best album of all time by Q Magazine. Obviously, voting works of art best is fucking dumb, but that one was voted on by thousands of their own readers, not just staff of the magazine. And it was interesting in that they actually put an album made after 1972 in the top 10, because usually, like with Rolling Stone, it's just the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Yep.
Although it definitely benefited from the fact that came out shortly after the album. But that said, The Bends is a Radiohead album that even people who don't like Radiohead like. It is an album that a lot of people still wish Radiohead would go back to sounding like, if only because they probably could if they really wanted to. But you know how all the young kids totally respect Pearl Jam for committing to dad rock 15 years ago. But it is still a fucking great album. There really isn't a shit song on it. Even OK Computer has a stumble or two on it. But more than that, this was their sophomore album, The Bends, after the not particularly good Pablo Honey featuring just one hit, the frankly fairly embarrassing Creep, which they hated long before they stopped playing it live. If this album had sucked or even been acceptable but without any standouts, that could have been the end of it. That could have been the end of their entire career, and then we never would have got AK Computer or Kid A or I Might Be Wrong or In Rainbows or Moonshaped Pool or any of their amazing live shows or anything. Richard Kingsmill once said that you could make a pretty good case for The Bends being the best album of the 90s, and I have to say, in terms of lasting appeal, I would say that it's a valid argument, certainly.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's all I've got for that one.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I reckon The Bends is pretty great still, I have to say.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because obviously Radiohead, I think with that album, OK Computer, said, oh, look, as a guitar band, we've probably reached the zenith of what we can do. So that after that, they sort of tried to go a bit more electronic, do a few things without guitars. So as a very guitar band to sort of ditch the guitars, it's sort of like, I guess you've sort of... themselves have said this is probably as good as we can do within this sort of type of structure. So, and I think people really enjoy their 90s output. Probably, I don't know. Like I'm not one of those Radiohead sort of fans where I sort of know whether people are loving the newer things as much as the older stuff. But I think for me personally, those are the ones that sort of stand out, as you've said. So definitely. Look, Tom, for me, I think probably my album of the decade would be Two Unlimited Hits Unlimited. So I think when you're going to choose an album the decade, I think a greatest hits compilation is probably the way to go, because what it does is it sort of collects the best songs from several albums. So
sure.
It's hard.
Greatest songs.
Oh, exactly. The hits, the unlimited hits, the hits unlimited. I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, because you're talking about Radiohead, and you've mentioned a few albums.
Yes,
a couple of different ones.
I was trying to be clever. Really, I was voting for the Bends. I was saying sort of.
So you sort of said the Bends, but you did mention OK Computer as well. Yes. So you've mentioned a couple. Whereas with me, I'm taking a more, I guess, traditional view of just mentioning one album, Tom, because it's the album of the decade. I'm not betting around the bush with other albums. Okay. I'm just choosing one album.
It is a greatest,
and it's a greatest hits album, which I think sort of, by very definition, combines all of those hits from various albums. I mean, No Limit, Get Ready for This, Twilight Zone, Tribal Dance, Workaholic. They're all on one album. So I think for me personally, Two Unlimited are one of the finest Euro dance artists of the decade.
They sure are.
We didn't get a chance to talk about them much because they never had a number one hit in Australia.
They were in the big four, though, weren't they?
They were in the big four of Eurodance. And as I think we may have mentioned, they did have a song that was the theme song for the Hobart Tennis Centre for about 15 years. So, and I think that sort of just shows how good they are. That Hobart Tennis Centre didn't say, let's get rid of Get Ready for This and get, Avril Lavigne in, or, the LFO sort of thing, or like Detachable Penis. They could have done that, but they said, we're sticking with, Two Unlimited because we know how good they are.
Now, I only got a B in grade 10 English, but even I know that you can't spell Rock I Stedford without Two Unlimited.
You absolutely cannot, for sure. Every Rock Stedford since Two Unlimited has been around until now, there's one of their songs.
Because they've got such a dynamic, emotional, thematic range. Just name me a situation that doesn't have a Two Unlimited song that's directly relevant to it.
Oh, look,
you can't.
Absolutely. I live my life. In one of my favourite film series, obviously Fast and the Furious, how the guy says, "I live my life a quarter mile at a time."
He sure does. I won't forget that.
Does he say that?
I saw that in that live audience. So yes,
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Sound of popcorn buckets hitting the screen. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
I live my life 160 BPMs at a time, Tom, and that's that's their sweet spot, Tom. I think so. Absolutely.
Well, I like to reach for the sky as much as the next man, Ben.
Definitely. So yeah, best
album. Going to round off.
What's you got a final category? Have you got a few
best
more?
Song. I was going to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I've got. Look, again, it's almost impossible to do it, but if I had to pick one out of the hat, just from looking back through listening to stuff, doing this, like listening to a bunch of older things, I'm going to vote for the best song for Cannonball by the Breeders. That was 1993. That was number 8 in France, 39 in the Billboard Top 40, 58 in Australia. So Nevermind only came out like the year or two before. And this song just shows how strange and varied the genre of grunge could be. 30 years later, it's just as rad, I reckon, as it ever was. It's just as weird and mystifying. It's musically inventive, sort of lo-fi and silly, but produced with real care. Like, you can play this while you drive, or you can blast it at full volume in a party. People will rock out. It's weirdly feminine and ballsy without seemingly trying at all, making any effort, really. Beck's Loser was pretty close to this vibe, but this is more musically inventive and less sort of insular and self-focused. Also, every single grunge kid had a crush on Kim Deal, and this video also features her identical twin sister.
Oh.
And how can you not like a stick tap on the cymbal stand to start a song, then throw in a bass slide as well, and this weird harmonica microphone vocal distortion, which is someone like singing too close to a harmonica microphone. It's got a rad fake out silence in the middle and a fake ending, plus the lyric, "I'll be your whatever you want." The video is directed by Spike Jones and Kim Gordon. Did I mention that there were identical twin sisters in the band? And also they're standing around mirrors half the time, so you keep thinking it's like a mistake.
Yep.
It's got it all, that song. I love it. It's still fucking great.
Fantastic.
I saw them about, fucking oath, this is going to make me sound and feel old as it did at the time, but about nearly 10 years ago, they did a 20-year tour for this, one of those ones where they just play the whole album, like the Weezer did with the Blue Album and various other people, bunch of grunge bands. Same as the Weezer. I went to see the Weezer Blue Album one as well. It was the same crowd. It was everyone in the crowd was either my age or older, all slightly overweight with scars from tribal tattoos, old facial piercings that have been removed. Everyone's wearing a carefully faded original, not from Super A, band shirt that they've kept in the cupboard since they saw some other band, not of the actual band, because only losers do that. PCU Pit Party taught us you don't wear the shirt from the band to the band. So, yeah, but it was fun, you know. It was fun to hang about around a bunch of Gen Xers, you know, and watch these incredibly talented musicians who are all still, like in this video, just wearing normal clothes. Absolutely. Like, no one's fucking posing or doing anything, you know. The sound mix isn't that great, but it's grunge. It was never that fucking great.
Yeah.
Even in the music video, the mix isn't that great. Yeah, anyway.
Fantastic.
It was a good time. What about you? Have you got a...
Oh, Tom, I think my song of the decade is, without a shadow of a doubt, Spin Doctors. Two Princes.
Two Princes. I mean, what can you say?
Look, I look for songs that lyrically Shakespeare could have written. You know what I mean? Like when I look at the lyrics, I just go, "Wait a minute, is this
Two Princes of Verona?"
Is this a current artist, or have they just reworked, you know, one of Shakespeare's finest sonnets? And I think with Spin Doctors, I think you could be confused. I think if you sort of wrote those lyrics down and then handed them to a Shakespeare sort of, you know, a scholar and said, "Is this one of his works?" or they wouldn't exactly know. And I think what the song says to me is that sort of musically it's fantastic, obviously, and you know, it's sort of what it does is it reminds me of just a bunch of friends kicking the old hacky sack around, Tom, and just having a good old time with like a big funny hat or something like that, and just sort of enjoying life and
maybe appropriating some culture, but not thinking about it too hard.
Exactly. But also sort of it questions, you know, when it comes, you know, there's two princes, Tom. You know, one is sort of marry him or marry me. You know, one is sort of the wealthier guy, and one is sort of the guy that, you know, I guess the protagonist in the song, who's sort of like, look, I don't come from a wealthy background, but look, just love me for who I am. So, I think it's a great song that sort of really just talks about relationships and what it is to just really find true love. And I think there's a lyric in the song that's something along the lines of, I don't have no riches or family tree, or I don't even have a future, I believe. I think I don't have no future or family tree. So, right. And I think that's important to sort of realise.
So he's not offering a lot.
No, and that's what's great about the song, is that it's sort of saying that, look, I don't have a family tree. I don't have, you know, that background, but just love me for who I am. I can't offer you any future because I have no qualifications or skills or education. But love, at the end of the day, Tom, I think that love will always find a way, no matter whether the person that, you know, you're in love with, or that you know, you're in a relationship with someone, you've got nothing to give them whatsoever, at all. And what Spin Doctors have said is it doesn't matter whether you offer nothing,
yes.
Absolutely nothing, no family heritage, no education, no skills, no money, nothing at all. But none of that matters, Tom. In fact, being a complete dead shit doesn't matter if you offer someone nothing at all, but if you love them enough, yes, love will find a way.
There is a storied tradition, isn't there? It goes back to... from I've Got You, Babe, to that Bob Marley song where he talks about on my single bed.
Yeah.
That of like, hey, our life is a total pile of shit, but, you know, being in love will somehow fix all of the other problems.
Exactly. And this is another song in that long tradition that's just a great song that just says, love will overcome. Love will overcome. Don't worry about it. So, women, if any ladies out there listening to this, if you meet a guy that is a complete fucking dead shit with nothing to offer you whatsoever, love will find a way, Tom.
That's
I think
right.
that's what that says. So thank you for Spin Doctors for that. I think it's great. Look, have you got anything else, Tom? I think we've wrapped up the 90s pretty well. You could talk about the 90s for 1,000 years because there's so much happening. But look, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with the year 2000.
Ooh.
Tom, if you can believe that, that's pretty impressive.
2000.
Now, I don't edit these podcasts ever, but is this going for 6 hours? Do I need to cut out like a little bit of it?
I don't know. We'll have a look later on.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Check out whatever YouTube playlist we do because we're gonna have all the links to all these amazing songs. It's going to go for 7 hours because just the MC Hammer video clips themselves.
I think Pumps and the Bumps about 3 hours long.
That's exactly right, for sure. Thank you.
See you later.